There's a saying in old New York penthouses, the help should be invisible. And for 3 long years, Noelia Rivera made herself exactly that. Quiet, efficient, unnoticed. At 27, she was practically a ghost in the marble halls of the Langston Towers, cleaning the glass, folding the towels, and serving espresso in silence while billionaires talked like she wasn't even breathing. But on one rainy Thursday morning, that silence shattered, because the most powerful man in the building, Miles Everett Langston, tech mogul, heir to Langston Energy, and self-proclaimed king of the 92nd floor, he decided Noelia had stepped out of line. All she did was enter the dining room a few seconds early. He was mid-toast, holding a champagne flute, surrounded by elite guests in tuxedos and silk gowns. And then, he laughed. But it wasn't a warm, human laugh. Did someone order a cleaning lady for breakfast? The room erupted. Cameras flashed. His fiancée, Brio, giggled behind her perfect hand. Noelia froze, eyes wide, plate trembling in her hands. I mean, seriously, Miles said louder, turning toward his guests. Can someone explain why our maid thinks she belongs in the presence of actual people? Laughter. More photos. A hashtag started trending minutes later. Hashtag Made in Manhattan Part 2. But what Miles didn't know was that Noelia wasn't just some poor immigrant with calloused hands and tired eyes. She was watching. She was listening. And she was about to flip his world upside down. Because what she did after that night was going to make a billionaire beg, literally, on his knees in. It all started with a phone call from a stranger who called her by a name she hadn't heard in years. Noelia barely slept that night. She scrubbed the last marble tile at 2 a.m., hands raw, eyes burning, the echo of laughter from that cruel dinner still bouncing around in her skull. She didn't cry. No, she hadn't cried in years. Not since she left Colombia. Not since she buried her father. But something inside her cracked open when her old Android buzzed against her apron pocket. A known number. Normally, she wouldn't answer. But this time she did. A pause. Then, a voice she hadn't heard in almost a decade. Luciana. Her breath caught. That name. No one had called her Luciana since she fled Medellin. Since she changed her name to Noelia to disappear. Who is this? She whispered, switching the phone to her good ear. You don't recognize my voice. After everything we survived, it hit her like a hurricane. Gabriel, the boy who once studied beside her in a broken schoolhouse lit by candlelight. The one who knew who she really was before the uniform, before the mop, before the billionaire humiliation. How did you find me? I didn't. He said, your story found me. That viral video of your face was everywhere. I knew it was you. Noelia's knees went weak. She sank onto the edge of the bed, hand covering her mouth. I've been looking for you for years, he continued, and guess what? I made it. I got out. I built a company. I'm in New York. She shook her head, disoriented. Why are you telling me this now? Because you need help, and because the world needs to know who you really are. Luciana, you're not a maid. You're a prodigy. A genius who used to code faster than anyone in our village. You could have run the world. She almost laughed. Her, a genius? Here she was, scraping caviar off plates for a man who didn't even know her name. Let me take you out, Gabriel said. Let me remind you who you are. She hesitated, then said yes. The next evening, Noelia stood in front of a small Italian bistro in Queens. Not Midtown, not Manhattan, Queens. And when Gabriel stepped out of a black town car, not a limo, not a Tesla but a modest town car, she knew something was different about him. He hugged her like they were still 17, like nothing had changed. But everything had. They eat pasta under string lights, surrounded by laughter, warmth, normalcy. And then he pulled out a folder. I've been working on something, and I think it's time you join me. Inside, architectural sketches, patents, software ideas, all with her name, Luciana Rivera, in the corner. This is the future. Lou, you helped build this without even knowing it. I want you on the team, not as some assistant, as my co-founder. Her hands trembled. Tears blurred her vision. This was everything she had buried to survive, and now it was back. But what about Langston? She asked, almost scared to say the name. Gabriel leaned forward, eyes sharp. We're going to expose him from the inside. The maid is about to become the mastermind. And just like that, Noelia made a decision that would change everything. She was going back to work, but not as a servant, as a spy. Noelia stood in front of the mirror the next morning, wearing her uniform like armor, black slacks, white blouse, name tag. She stared at her reflection, but for the first time in years, she didn't see a maid. She saw Luciana Rivera, the girl who once dreamed of building things, not cleaning up after people who destroyed them. She tightened her ponytail and walked out the door. Langston Tower was quiet that early in the morning. The night shift guards nodded as she passed, unaware that the woman they'd always overlooked was now walking with a secret mission. A mission that started with uncovering everything Miles Everett Langston had to hide. Noelia started small. She watched, listened, noticed patterns. She had always been good at that, reading people, predicting their moves. Every morning, Miles ordered his espresso the same way, single shot, 90 degrees, with imported Bolivian cane sugar. Every Tuesday, his CFO, Charles, slipped into the 88th floor boardroom with a folder labeled Private Holdings. And every Thursday, Real showed up with 2 iPhones and 3 alibis. By the end of the first week, Noelia had gathered more data than Miles's entire security team would have noticed in a month. But it was the following Monday that cracked. Everything wide open, Miles had stormed out of a meeting, muttering curses under his breath. Face flushed, he grabbed a bottle of scotch from the lounge and poured 3 fingers into a crystal glass. Noelia was cleaning nearby when he shouted, "That contract was sealed. How the hell did it slip? Someone's leaking information." She turned away, quickly, but not before catching the reflection of his laptop screen in the polished cabinet glass. A name, a code, Elysium Holdings, and beneath it, a spreadsheet marked offshore transfers. Unauthorized. She didn't need to be a tech CEO to understand what that meant. Miles Langston wasn't just arrogant, he was laundering money, possibly millions, maybe billions. Later that night, Gabriel called. She whispered into the phone, hiding under the laundry chute. "I found something big." Gabriel's voice was tense. "Do not confront him. We do this clean. We build a case. But we need proof," she replied. Gabriel paused. "Then you need access to his private office." Noelia froze. His private office was off limits to all staff. Surveillance cameras, fingerprint access, alarm door. But she knew something Gabriel didn't. On Fridays, Miles got massages. 90 minutes. Door locked. Music loud. That was her window. She spent the next 4 days preparing, studying the floor plan, noting camera angles, watching the timing of every staff rotation. And on Friday at 3:15 p.m., with her heart hammering against her ribs, she slipped inside. The office was pristine, cold, soulless. A massive desk, a wall of screens, and a safe behind a painting. Noelia moved fast, fingers flying across the keyboard. She plugged in the flash drive Gabriel had given her and started copying everything: emails, account logs, encrypted messages. She was halfway through when she heard it. Footsteps. Not just one person. Voices. And a hand on the door. She panicked, pulled the drive, tucked it under her waistband, ducked behind the sofa just as the door opened. Miles walked in, still in his robe, laughing with someone on speakerphone. "I told you, mate, the girl's nothing. Just some peasant with a broom." He poured another drink. "You think I care? If she quits, I could have her deported with one call. These people are disposable." Noelia clenched her jaw so tight she tasted blood. She waited. Every second was a scream. Finally, he left, and she ran. Not to her room, not to Gabriel. She ran to the roof. And for the first time since she'd arrived in New York, she screamed. But it wasn't pain. It was power. Because now she held the truth, and the fall of a billionaire was in her hands. By sunrise, Gabriel had decrypted nearly half of the files Noelia pulled from Miles Langston's private office. And what he found wasn't just suspicious. It was criminal. Over $190 million in transfers, multiple shell companies registered in Belize, the Cayman Islands, and oddly, Colombia, and dozens of flagged transactions to accounts tied to known corporate fixers and offshore contractors. Gabriel looked up from his laptop, pale. This guy is not just laundering money. He's running a global game: bribes, tax fraud, probably corporate espionage. Noelia sat across from him, arms wrapped around herself. "I knew he was cruel, but this is evil." Gabriel nodded, then tapped the screen. "Look at this file name, Rivera Logistics. He's using your last name." Her stomach dropped. Gabriel opened the file. Inside were documents from 10 years ago, shipping manifests, real estate deeds, and buried deep a forged signature. Her father's name. Tears welled up. Miles had bought out her family's old shipping business in Medellin during the recession. Only it wasn't a real purchase. It was theft. He used shell companies to claim land, forge signatures, and destroy dozens of family-owned ports just like hers. Her father had died thinking he'd failed them. But it wasn't his failure. It was Miles Langston's theft. Noelia stood up, hands trembling. He took everything from us, from my father. Gabriel stood to. We exposed this, all of it. I'll prep the files. You get back in there and gather whatever's left. But Noelia wasn't listening. Her mind was somewhere else, back at Langston Tower, because revenge wasn't enough anymore. Now, it was personal. She didn't want him ruined quietly. She wanted him to feel it, to feel humiliated, just like he humiliated her, to watch the crowd laugh at him. She returned to work Monday with a smile on her face. The entire staff noticed. So did Brielle, who cornered her in the service hallway near the spa. You think you're cute now, huh? Miles felt bad for you, you know. That's why he didn't fire you. Noelia said nothing, just looked her in the eye. Brielle tilted her head. You don't belong here, sweetheart. You're just part of the furniture. Know your place. Noelia replied with a calmness that chilled the hallway. Oh, don't worry. I know exactly where I belong, and I'll be taking my seat soon. She walked away. That same evening, at a charity gala hosted by Miles Langston, the elite of New York flooded into the Met atrium. Chandeliers sparkled, waiters circled with champagne, and Miles stood center stage in a white tux, soaking in the spotlight. But just as he lifted his glass to toast the crowd, the room darkened. The projector screen behind him lit up. And a video began to play. Not just any video, emails, account statements, wire transfers, footage of his boardroom with audio. They're disposable. One call, and I can have her deported. A wave of gas swept through the room. Phones came out. Cameras flashed. Miles turned to the screen, stunned. Then a voice echoed through the speakers. Noelia's voice. I may be a maid, but I'm not invisible. The screen faded to black. She stepped onto the stage, not in uniform, in a sleek black dress, head high, eyes locked on his. And Miles Langston, billionaire, bully, empire builder, took one step back. He looked around. Everyone was watching. No one was laughing. She didn't need to shout. Her presence said it all. And that's when it hit him. He wasn't the one in control anymore. Noelia Rivera was. Within an hour, the footage from the gala had already been viewed over 3 million times. By midnight, it was everywhere: TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, late-night talk shows. Headlines lit up like fireworks across the internet. MAID exposes billionaire. In front of Nick's elite, from cleaning floors to cleaning house, Noelia Rivera goes viral. Who is Lux Rivera? Yes, Lux. That's the name people started calling her, a twist on Luciana, a symbol of power, rebirth, light. Noelia didn't choose it, but she embraced it. Meanwhile, Miles Langston's world began to collapse. His PR team scrambled. His lawyers, FILED injunctions. But it was too late. The data had been mirrored and shared by dozens of whistleblower platforms. The FBI quietly opened an investigation, and within 48 hours, Langston Corp's stock dropped 37%. He fired half his staff. Brielle left him publicly via Instagram Live, tears and all. And then came the investors. They demanded answers, transparency, a full audit. Miles tried to hold on. He even issued a video apology, eyes red, hair disheveled, claiming he was the victim of a smear campaign orchestrated by a disgruntled former employee. But the comments section didn't buy it. Noelia, meanwhile, kept quiet. No press, no interviews, just one pinned message on her barely used X profile. Truth doesn't need a mic, it just needs proof. Gabriel watched all of it unfold with a strange mix of awe and concern. You know this isn't over, he said, sitting beside her in a small rented studio in Astoria. Noelia nodded. I know. He's going to fight back. Gabriel leaned forward. You've already won the crowd, but he still has money, influence, friends in dark places. She turned to him, calm. Then we don't stop now. We make it impossible for him to hide. What neither of them knew was that Miles had already started working on a counterattack. Behind closed doors, he was assembling a team, hackers, reputation fixers, legal assassins, And one woman in particular, Villa, notorious crisis manager, known for making scandals, disappear and enemies vanish. In a quiet, private room downtown, Miles poured her a drink. I want her discredited, broken. Send her back to whatever slum she came from. Ela didn't flinch. I'll need a week. Miles smirked. I'll give you 3 days. She raised a brow. Then it's going to cost you extra. And just like that, the war began. 2 days later, Noelia's building was swarmed with fake inspectors. Her landlord received a mysterious code violation and threatened to evict her. Her bank account was frozen. Her phone glitched. Emails vanished. Gabriel's servers were hit by a denial of service attack that crashed his site. Everywhere they turned, there was resistance. Noelia sat in a dim room, the walls closing in. This is bigger than I thought, she whispered. Gabriel rubbed his temples. We poked the giant, and he's pissed. But Noelia stood, eyes blazing. He mocked me in front of everyone. Now he wants to erase me. No. She picked up her coat, walked toward the door. Gabriel stood. Where are you going? She didn't turn back. To find the one person he fears more than anyone else. Who's that? She paused. His mother. Noelia had never met Evelyn Langston before. The reclusive matriarch of the Langston Empire had all but disappeared from public life. A decade ago, after a mysterious health scare and rumors of a fallout with her only son, some said she lived in a villa in Italy, others claimed she'd been institutionalized. But Gabriel had a name, a caretaker, and an address in upstate New York. So Noelia borrowed a car and drove. The air grew colder the farther she got from the city. Pine trees flanked the narrow roads. Her hands tightened on the wheel. As she approached the wrought iron gates of Langston Hollow, a mansion swallowed by time and ivy, she buzzed in, expecting nothing. But the gates opened. A woman in her 50s greeted her at the door. Sharp eyes. No smile. You're the one from the video, she said. I need to speak with Evelyn Langston. The woman studied her a moment, then nodded. Follow me inside. The air smelled of old books and lost memories. Evelyn Langston was in the sunroom, seated in a wheelchair, wearing a navy shawl and pearls that looked older than the house itself. She turned her head slowly. I remember you, she said, voice raspy but strong. Noelia blinked. We've never met. Evelyn smiled faintly. But I've seen you. I watched the gala footage. You reminded me of someone I used to be. Noelia stepped closer. Then you know why I'm here. I do. I need your help. Evelyn's fingers twitched over the edge of her chair. I warned him, you know. I warned him long ago. Power without discipline becomes rot. But Miles, he always craved applause more than purpose. Noelia leaned in. He's trying to destroy me, and if I don't stop him, others will suffer too. I have the evidence, but now he's rewriting the story. I need something no one can discredit. Evelyn turned her eyes to the window. Go. To the 3rd floor. West wing. The library. Far wall. Behind the Emerson bust there's a safe. My old one. What's inside? The truth. And a piece of his past he'd sell his soul to keep buried. Noelia's pulse spiked. The caretaker led her up a winding staircase, then left her alone. The library was vast, dusty, silent. She found the bust, moved it, and behind it, just as Evelyn had said, was a hidden safe. Inside, she found a thick envelope and a small hard drive. Back in the sunroom, Evelyn was waiting. That drive contains recordings, diaries, documents from when Miles was building his first company. He didn't start with innovation, he started with blackmail. I kept it quiet to protect the family name. But now, I think protecting him is the worst thing I ever did. Noelia's throat tightened. Why are you giving this to me? Evelyn looked up with glassy eyes. Because you're the first person who made him look small. And because I'm tired of pretending I raised a good man. Noelia placed a hand gently on Evelyn's. Thank you. As she left Langston Hollow, clouds gathered overhead. She didn't drive straight back to the city. She made a detour to an old friend of Gabriel's, a journalist. The kind who didn't play nice with billionaires. The kind who lived for stories. Like this. 3 hours later, that journalist opened the drive. After 15 minutes of silence, he looked up. This isn't a story. This is a nuclear bomb. Will you publish it? Noelia asked. He didn't hesitate. Absolutely. But when I do, the world's going to explode, and he'll come after you with everything he has left. Noelia stood tall. Let him. The next morning, the headline hit the internet. Exclusive. Langston Empire founded on extortion. Lies documents revealed dark origins, and Miles Langston's world lit up in flames. Miles Langston didn't sleep the night the exposed dropped. His phone buzzed nonstop. Text messages from lawyers, missed calls from board members, voicemails from investors who no longer sounded polite. His brand, once spotless, prestigious, feared, was now a meme. Photos of him from the gala were circulating with captions like, "From billionaire to busted, cleaning up after the MAID's Mick drop, CEO of Lies." By noon, the SEC had issued a formal statement. An emergency board meeting was called, and for the first time in his career, Miles Langston wasn't invited. He sat alone in his penthouse. No Brielle, no staff, just the echo of silence and 4,000 square feet of polished emptiness. He stared at his reflection in the floor-to-ceiling windows. Everything he had built, the reputation, the fear, the money, all of it felt fragile now. He poured a drink with shaking hands, then another, and then he called his mother. She didn't answer. He left a voicemail anyway. "You gave her that file, didn't you? I should have known. You never believed in me. You never understood what it took to get where I am. You always saw me as a failure, waiting to happen." Click. He didn't even finish. Back in Queens, Noelia and Gabriel sat quietly in the kitchen, watching the news unfold. It wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about justice. About setting the record straight, not just for her, but for everyone who had ever been stepped on, mocked, discarded. Noelia turned to Gabriel. "This isn't the end." "Not yet." He nodded. "There's still one more piece." She raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" Gabriel reached into his bag and pulled out a legal document. "I got this from a contact at the Department of Labor. It's a complaint, filed 3 years ago." She scanned it. Her eyes widened. "It's from a maid, from this very tower." Gabriel leaned in. She accused Miles of harassment, verbal abuse, retaliation, and she was fired. Silence with a settlement. NDA. Gag order. But now, with all this coming out, she's willing to speak. Noelia stared at the paper. "What's her name?" Gabriel smiled. "Lena. Lena Sanchez." Noelia's hand flew to her mouth. Lena had trained her, the first woman to show her where the linens went, how to avoid Miles's temper, how to survive in silence. "She's back," Noelia whispered. "She never left, just disappeared into fear." Noelia stood. "That we bring her out." That evening, they met in a quiet cafe near Union Square. Lena sat in the corner, head low, scarf pulled over her hair. Her eyes were wary until she saw Noelia, then they filled with tears. "I never thought I'd see the day," Lena said softly. "You did what none of us could." Noelia reached across the table. "No, we do it together." Lena handed over a USB stick. "This is recordings from my phone. I kept them. I know it was dangerous, but I had to. I couldn't let it all just disappear." Noelia took it gently, her voice steady. "You just help make sure it doesn't." What they didn't know was that Miles had been watching. One of his last loyal staffers had spotted Noelia that day, had followed her, reported back. And now, deep in his private server room, Miles was preparing his final card. Not a lawsuit, not a threat, but something darker. He picked up the encrypted phone only a few people in the world had the number for. A gravelly voice answered. "Go ahead," Miles said. "Activate Plan Echo." There was a pause. Then the voice replied, "Are you sure? Once we start, there's no going back." Miles downed the rest of his scotch. "Do it." Plan Echo wasn't a legal maneuver. It wasn't corporate warfare. It was personal. A protocol Miles had built years ago in case of absolute failure. A digital nuke designed to wipe out anything or anyone who became a threat. And now, Noelia was his target. The first hit came fast. Within 24 hours, Noelia's immigration records were mysteriously flagged. She received a formal letter suggesting her status was under review due to irregularities. A notice she hadn't seen since the day she stepped foot in the U.S. Her work visa suspended, bank account frozen again, social security number suddenly invalid. She ran to Gabriel's office in a panic. "They're erasing me," she whispered, voice shaking. From the inside out, Gabriel's jaw tightened. "We knew he'd retaliate, but this is surgical." He checked the systems. Everything was being scrubbed, tampered with from multiple global IP addresses. Noelia paced, hands in her hair. "If I disappear, the story dies. All of it." Lana's voice. "My father's name. Everything. Gabriel stood. Then we moved now. Public. Bigger than before. But how? He smiled. We don't just release a file. We tell your story. That night, they called in every contact, every journalist, every influencer willing to risk heat for truth. They shot a short doc raw, unfiltered, painful detailing Noelia's past, the abuse, the corruption, the humiliation. They included Lana's recordings, Evelyn Langston's statement, and the faces of every maid, janitor, and service worker Miles Langston had trampled. The video was titled, "I Was the Maid. Now I'm the Mirror." In 12 hours, it hit 20 million views. People were enraged. Mothers, daughters, immigrants, blue-collar workers all saw themselves in Noelia. She wasn't just a victim. She was a symbol. But as the fire rose, so did the danger. Gabriel's building was broken into. Noelia's phone was cloned. One night, she returned home to find her door ajar, nothing stolen. But her childhood photos shattered on the floor. Miles was sending a message. "I'm still watching you." And yet, something inside her refused to back down. This time, she wasn't afraid. She was furious. They went to the Department of Justice directly, handed over everything. The files, the videos, Lana's statement, Evelyn's drive. Every stolen dollar accounted for. The next morning, headlines exploded again. Langston faces federal probe. Inside her testimony, imminent. Miles was finally cornered. But instead of surrendering, he doubled down. He went live. Broadcasting from his penthouse. He sat in front of the camera in a designer suit, eyes red from sleepless nights, a glass of bourbon in his hand. He looked straight into the lens. They want to cancel me? Fine. Let them. But I built this city's grid. I powered hospitals. I created jobs. And now I'm the villain because a maid decided she wanted to be famous. His voice cracked. They don't care about truth. They care about drama. And she gave them a story. The internet lit up again, but this time, the comments weren't divided. They were brutal. "So you're mad she didn't stay in her lane? Bro, she exposed federal crimes. Sit down. You mocked her. She outplayed you." Back in the studio, Noelia watched silently. Gabriel turned to her. "He's unraveling. You did this." She nodded, but something about the video bothered her. Why does he sound almost broken? And then it hit her. Miles wasn't broadcasting to defend himself. He was preparing for something else. One final card. And she feared it had nothing to do with lawsuits or power or even revenge. It had to do with himself. The live stream ended abruptly. No farewell, no spin, no press release. Just Miles Langston sitting alone in silence, staring into the void, then cutting the feed. The internet exploded with theories. Was he arrested? Was he running? Was he planning something? But Noelia knew. She recognized the look in his eyes. It was the same look her father had the day they lost everything. A man unraveling at the edge of his own lies. She turned to Gabriel. "There's more we're not seeing." He nodded. "Let's go back through the files, especially the early ones." They spent the next 6 hours digging, and that's when they found it. A private folder labeled MEL, "Do Not Open." Inside, old therapy notes, audio recordings, and one single document that changed everything. A psychiatric evaluation from 20 years ago. Subject exhibits symptoms of narcissistic personality disorder, severe abandonment trauma, and obsessive control behaviors developed in childhood. Patient displays sociopathic tendencies masked by charm and strategic generosity. The subject, Miles Everett Langston, age 13. Attached was a letter from his mother, a desperate plea to a private boarding school, begging them to help her son. He doesn't feel empathy. He watches people cry and laughs. "I don't know what to do with him anymore." Noelia covered her mouth. "He's broken." Gabriel looked at her. "That doesn't excuse what he's done." "No, but it explains how deep the darkness goes." Meanwhile, in a Langston penthouse, Miles sat in his chair staring at a framed photo, a rare one. Him and Evelyn, smiling, before everything turned cold. He whispered to the empty room, "I did it for you, all of it." Suddenly, his phone lit. UPA notification from the Department of Justice. Formal charges, fraud, money laundering, witness intimidation. It was real now. He had the choices, flee or face it. Instead, he poured one last drink, opened his private vault, and pulled out something no one had seen in years. A worn-out journal. He began writing. The next morning, The world awoke to a shocking headline. Miles Langston missing. Authorities launch manhunt. His security footage showed him leaving the tower just before dawn. No driver, no escort, no credit card trail. But Noelia wasn't panicking, because that afternoon, she received a package, unmarked. No return address. Inside was the journal, and a handwritten note. You were right. I was always scared someone, like you, would see through me. Now the world does too. Tell them the rest. She stared at the pages, dozens of entries, confessions, details, memories, names, not just of his crimes, but of the boy he used to be, the one who watched his father, beat his mother, who was locked in closets for hours for crying, who learned early that silence equals survival and cruelty equals control. It didn't make her pity him. It made her realize something bigger. He wasn't the only one like this. He was a mirror of every man in power who thought fear was strength. Gabriel stood beside her. What are you thinking? She looked up. I'm going to publish the journal, all of it, even the vulnerable stuff, especially that, because this story wasn't just about taking down a billionaire. It was about healing the wound that made him. The decision to publish Miles's journal wasn't easy. Some warned her not to. It'll make you look soft. Don't humanize the villain. Keep the win clean. But Noelia knew this wasn't about winning anymore. It was about finishing the story, all of it. So she did. She released the full transcript online with a short foreword. The man who mocked me was also the boy who was mocked. This is not a defense. This is a reminder. Monsters are made, not born. And when we named the wound, we stopped the cycle. It went viral instantly. People weren't just angry anymore. They were reflective. Some even said they cried. It sparked a movement. #Read the journal started trending. Therapists, activists, and trauma survivors began using it to start conversations about generational violence, wealth without responsibility, and the way power protects pain until it mutates. Meanwhile, Noelia received a phone call she never expected. From Medellin, a woman's voice, trembling. Señorita Luciana. She froze. That name. This is Consuela. I worked with your father. I saw your video. I cried. We all did. Noelia choked up. How did you find me? We've never stopped following you. Your father, he believed in you. Said you changed the world one day. Silence. Before he died, he left you something. I never knew how to get it to you, but now I do. 2 weeks later, a package arrived. Inside, a faded photo of her as a child, covered in grease, holding a wrench beside her father's old cargo truck. A leather notebook filled with handwritten mechanical sketches, some with her doodles in the corners, and a letter. Milionaiре, you are my invention, my design. You were never meant to clean after men like him. You were meant to build what they couldn't even imagine. If you're reading this, it means the world finally saw who you are. Shine without apology. And forgive me for not being there to see it. Noelia broke. She cried like she hadn't in years. Not from sadness, but from release. She read the letter over and over that night. Then packed a small duffel bag and flew home. Back to the hills where her journey began. To the broken streets where her dreams were first planted. And when she stepped onto that dusty road and saw the old truck still standing, still rusted, something clicked. She knew what she had to do next. Not just expose broken systems, but build new ones. When she returned to the U.S., she launched a new initiative, the Rivera Project, a nonprofit tech accelerator for girls from underserved backgrounds in Latin America and immigrant communities across the U.S. No corporate sponsors, no billionaires, just people. She gave scholarships, mentorship, and most importantly, dignity. Gabriel stood beside her every step of the way, and one night, as they watched a group of young girls assemble their first robotic prototypes in a donated warehouse, he leaned over. He's gone, you know, Miles, vanished for real this time. Some say Switzerland, some say Dubai. Doesn't matter. He's a ghost now. She didn't flinch. Good. Let the silence be his punishment. Gabriel smiled. And what about us? She turned slowly. Heart full. We build. Together. And then she kissed him. Soft, earnest. The kind of kiss that says, I see you. I've always seen you. It wasn't about fairy tales. It was about foundation. Noelia Rivera, once invisible, now undeniable, had become everything her father dreamed she would be. Months passed, but the world didn't forget. The Rivera Project grew rapidly. Local news became national coverage. Celebrities tweeted about it. List donors offered money. But Noelia had learned. She didn't want vanity partners. She wanted builders. So she did something radical. She opened the books. Every donation, every expense, every decision, transparent, open source, crowd audited. The media called her the anti-billionaire. Meanwhile, Lena Sanchez, the maid who once hid in fear, became a quiet icon. She joined the Rivera Project as Director of Staff Justice. She traveled to hotels, airports, schools, places where workers were often invisible, and taught them how to document abuse, report violations, and protect each other. At one conference in Chicago, a woman in the crowd stood up crying, "My boss told me I was worthless. But I saw your story, and I didn't believe him anymore. Thank you." Lena wept on stage for once, not from fear, but from pride. And Evelyn Langston, she left the hollow, sold the property, donated everything. She moved into a modest apartment near Noelia's tech hub and volunteered as a literacy tutor at a local women's shelter. They met once a month. Noelia never brought up Miles. Evelyn never asked for credit. But one afternoon, she handed Noelia a photo. Young Miles, maybe 6 years old, smiling, gap-toothed, pure. I look at that boy sometimes and wonder if I failed him, or if he was already lost. Noelia studied the photo. I think he was both. Evelyn nodded, eyes damp, then said something that stayed with her forever. You didn't just expose him. You interrupted the cycle. That night, Noelia sat with Gabriel in their small apartment overlooking the East River. They didn't need luxury. They had purpose. Do you ever miss it? Gabriel asked. The quiet life? She smiled. I think I never really lived until now. They watched the city lights flicker across the water, across town. A girl named Raina scrolled through her tablet. She was 14, daughter of a janitor. She had just built her first app through the Rivera Project. Her eyes lit up when she saw Noelia's photo. She used to be a maid. She asked her teacher. The woman nodded. She used to be invisible. Raina grinned. Not anymore. And somewhere in a mountain village outside Bogota, an old man hung a framed newspaper clipping on the wall. Noelia Rivera, the girl who made the world kneel without ever raising her voice. It was a quiet Sunday morning when Noelia stood on stage at Columbia University, not as a maid, not even as an entrepreneur, but as an honorary doctorate recipient in social innovation and ethical leadership, the same university Miles once donated millions to before his name was stripped from every plaque, every program, every building. The crowd stood in silence as she approached the mic. No music, no introduction, just her in a simple dark dress, hair pulled back, heart wide open. I was never supposed to be here, she began. According to the world, I was just a help, just a cleaning lady, just a shadow in someone else's story. She paused. Let the truth settle. But shadows don't exist without light. And every time someone tried to dim mine, I found a new way to shine. Thunderous applause. She looked over at Gabriel, who stood in the wings with Lena, Evelyn, and dozens of girls from the Rivera Project, all wearing matching bracelets engraved with the words, seen, heard, unstoppable. Her voice softened. If you're watching this, maybe you've been overlooked, mocked, belittled, told you don't belong. Maybe you've been cleaning the floor while someone else walks the stage. She looked directly at the camera. Just know, that doesn't mean your moment isn't coming. Sometimes, the world has to kneel before the very people it tried to bury. The room rose in a standing ovation that lasted nearly 5 minutes. That night, as she and Gabriel walked home along the river, he turned to her with a smirk. You know you made a billionaire disappear, right? She laughed. I didn't make him disappear. I made myself visible. He reached for her hand. What now? She didn't hesitate. We keep building. And they did. Noelia opened satellite Rivera hubs in Mexico City, Nairobi, and Bangkok. She declined every offer to go corporate, and when a streaming platform offered her $8 million for the rights to her story, she agreed on one condition, that every dollar go to scholarships. The film won 2 Emmys, and during her acceptance speech, she said only 6 words. This one's for the invisible ones. Today, they teach her name in business schools and human rights seminars, not because she made money, but because she made history. She proved that power without purpose crumbles, and that sometimes justice doesn't wear a robe, it wears a name. Tagged us so next time someone laughs at the person cleaning their table, or holding the elevator, or picking up after the powerful. Remember Noelia Rivera? She didn't raise her voice. She raised the world's conscience. What did you think of Noelia Rivera's story? Was it inspiring, shocking, empowering? Share your thoughts in the comments and tell us on a scale from 0 to 10. How would you rate this journey? Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another story like this. Because sometimes the quietest voices echo the loudest.